Hello there! Today's tutorial is going to be making soap using the House of Crafts homemade soap kit. As you can see, you've got an instruction manual that comes with the kit that gives you all the details of how to do the process. You've also got your melt and pour soap compound, so you are not making the soap from scratch, and a bottle of fragrance oil. This is quite a citrusy fragrance. Next you have items for making your soap more visually interesting. You have some dried grass, you have some dried, what I assume is some sort of bark or leaf, which looks kind of corally, and you have some dried petals. The petals have the strongest scent out of the three types. The last bits of equipment we have are the plastic moulds for pouring your soap mixtures into. You have a square, an oval and a more traditional soap block, and we have a little pipette for adding the oil into the mixture. In order to melt your soap, you need to set up a double boiler. So as you can see, I've got one pan going and I've got a pan for putting the soap into. And we've also then got to cut out the amount of soap that we want from the block. You can melt the soap via microwave, however I personally decided to do it via the pan. So this requires some level of cutting the soap out. Personally I found it easier to do it with a sharp knife, but obviously if you're doing this, be very careful. I aim to cut out about a third of the mixture. I did find the plastic container cracked a little bit. I don't believe this is from the knife, but more the pressure of trying to loosen the soap out. Again, be very, very careful if you're going to do this, because obviously soap is slippery, and the last thing you want is to injure yourself from the knife slipping away. As you can see, I have managed to make a nice line through most of it, and that makes the last piece of it easier to cut through. Hopefully from here on out, I'll just be able to slice into the block when needed. Obviously, put the rest of the soap away, and you're then able to start the process of melting the section that you're using. Once you've got the water boiling, you're then mostly just paying attention to the pan, waiting for the soap to melt. You want to make sure that it gets to the point where the majority, if not all of the soap is melted, but that it's not started to heat to the point where any of it's boiling over. At that point you can turn the heat off and it's time to add your scents. You want to start adding a bit at a time until you're happy that the scent is going to be strong enough. It will fade a little bit. That's just the nature of it being put into a hot pan, so it's going to give a stronger reaction as it's heated up a little bit. The same as how the soap bar itself won't smell very strongly cold, but will have a stronger scent when you're applying it to a warm body. But you do want to be careful not to overpower things in case someone has a strong reaction to scents. You're then going to add any decorative flakes that came with the kit that you want to add. I just used the one type. And then you can pour the liquid out into your moulds. You can see I ended up with 2 and a bit with some of the scrapings left over. You want to leave them to cool and then apply cling film over the top. So at this point they've been cooled for about half an hour, and then they're going to go into the fridge. So you're cling filming them in order to protect the other things in your fridge from the soap rather than the other way around. So obviously you don't want any flecks of food getting into your soap. Once your soaps have set overnight, you can remove them from the moulds quite easily. You can see there the difference that having stuck some soap scraps on the end of the last bar has made. It's not the prettiest, but the others have taken the colour quite well, and you can see the effects of the petals that we used having spread out and being set in a quite translucent soap. It almost has a bit of a glow to it. It's slightly opaque, and I believe that is from the oils used to scent it. Overall, I am quite impressed with this little kit. It's got all the basics you need in there, and whilst I would love to experiment with more inclusions and more scents, as a starting kit, it's quite good. Relatively cheap, I believe it was around £10 to £15, and it's got all the basics that you need.